3D Boxing here is here with Darius Fulghum, undefeated light heavyweight prospect. We're going to get into that if that's his best weight class here on Texas boxing scene. Darius, it's good to have you on. Thank you for your time. How's camp going?
Man, I appreciate you having me on. The camp has been going phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie, one of the best camps that I've had up to date.
You've been active. You've been fighting every month, every other month.
Mm-hmm.
What's the plan, and when do you want to be fighting those elite level fighters? And what's your best weight class? I guess we should start there because I know that you're talking about making a move off air. So let's get into that.
Right. So I mean, most of my career I've been fighting at 175. But plan always was originally going down to 168. 68 was a lot much better weight class. I feel like for me, I can make 175 extremely easily. Anybody that's been at the fights with me, I be eating day before weigh-ins, eating at weigh-ins. So
didn't I see you eating at the weigh-in in that last fight in San Antonio? You eating at the weigh-in, right? I thought so. I was like, yeah.
Right after the press conference, they had the food set up out there.
Yeah.
So right. It was 175 is really easy for me to make. I have no problem making it.
Yeah, I thought you were fine. I thought your fight got canceled too because you're sitting there eating.
But I tell you one thing about me, I definitely don't play by my weight at all. That's nothing I ever struggle with or I ever have to worry about. Like, oh, is Darius going? He's looking depleted. He's looking sunken. Like, nah, I never have a problem with weight. That's one thing. A fight is stressful in and of itself. I don't need to add more stress by trying to cut a lot of weight last second or anything like that. So I always get down way ahead of time.
So you're fighting September 16th. This is the Gesta as a Pedraza. And that's I don't want to ask you who wins that fight in just a minute. But you're fighting at 172. So ultimately, 168 is your goal. Is that where you want to be, when you're fighting for world titles and things like that?
Yeah, that's the weight division I want to campaign at. A lot of big names at 168. It's much more stacked division. And so it's important for me that I make my way up there and start crossing those names off.
So you want the names. We were talking about air a little bit. You don't want 75 until you get to the top two names. It's not a lot. There's not a lot of smoke there, right?
Right.
So you want the big names. You don't want the easier path of less resistance at 175.
No, I mean you got to think too. Like realistically, the reason why I'm in this sport, what I'm doing is for legacy purposes. Like I really want to be great in this. DFG stands for Destined for Greatness. My whole goal is to be great, and so I told you earlier, I don't want people looking at my resume and thinking like, oh man, look, he hasn't fought nobody, and sometimes early in the career, that's just how you kind of get built up, but eventually when I get to that point, right, like I'm not in a place where I can even call out a name. It's like people looking like, man, Darius, who are you, but my whole goal in this next year really is to really cement my name and where people look at me and be like, man, who is this guy? I need to see Darius with such and such, such and such, such and such. Where that kind of buzz.
All right. We were talking about 68 DFG Destined for Greatness. I just thought it was your initials, like Darius Fulghum.
No. It kind of does flow like that, right? But now DFG stands for Destined for Greatness. That's something that I always kind of like really embodied. Ever since I was like a little kid, and I always had this feeling really inside me, like I got to be great at something. I just didn't know what that was at the time. I was a kid, but I always felt the need and desire to be great. And really, Destined for Greatness is really just a mindset, It's really about just belief in yourself. And I can't stress enough how important it is for every fighter, really, to have that belief in themselves, to really strive to be great.
I do want to ask you on that card, Gesta and William Zepeda. Who do you got in the main event?
I'm not gonna lie to you, so I don't know much about Gesta, to be honest with you. I've seen William Zepeda fight a few times, and just off of watching him fight, his style is extremely hard to deal with. When you have volume like that, with a lot of pressure and power like that, it's so hard for anybody to really deal with that over a long period of time. So I can't really give a prediction because I don't know much about Gesta, but I do like Williams Zepeda. I think he's a tremendous fighter.
Jester just he beat Jojo Diaz. He's a fun come forward pressure fighter too. So I mean the fans are gonna win for sure, right? Because this is
going to be a great night for the fans for sure. If he
the
has
fans
a
win
style like that.
So I want to get back to the beginning. Obviously, you had a sensational amateur career. Start me from the beginning. Your beginnings in boxing. Are you from a fighting family? How'd you get into boxing? And then walk me all the way through the Olympic trials and your international experience.
I got you. I try not to bore you deaf with my story.
Take your time.
I was definitely a late bloomer. I didn't come from a boxing family. My brother actually was a football player. Extremely talented. He ended up made it to the league. Played in the NFL for a little bit. So I always thought football was supposed to be my calling.
What team? Where did your brother go to school, and where did he play in the NFL?
He went to Texas Southern University out here
Okay.
in Houston, and then he went and played at the Detroit Lions. It was around the year of the lockout.
Okay.
When the lockout happened, so he was a undrafted free agent, so he played a little bit there. Extremely talented though. He's my biggest inspiration in everything. And so the difference between us was football wasn't my thing, but like I always admired his mindset. Like dude, to this day, still trains like an NFL athlete. Like his work ethic is beyond me, you know. So I've always admired him, looked up to him for that. And so now it's just about me finding my own lane, right?
Is
and
this
so,
Dewan?
Yeah,
Fulghum?
Yep.
Okay, that's your brother. I'm apparently okay.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, extremely. That's my guy. You know, and I have him with me in the corner of all my fights. You know, like I say, he's a big motivation for me, and it's funny. You know, he's in the corner every one of my fights. He doesn't know anything about boxing. Nothing about boxing. Boxing is not his sport, not his forte. But what's always important to me is just having people that I love and genuinely care about being in the ring with me, being on my side. Like that means a lot to me, you know. And so it's always important having him there, and he's been with me from when I say the beginning, you know. So we went to when I was trying to get ready to qualify for the Olympic trials. He went out with me both to the qualifiers to qualify for the Olympic trials. It was just like me and him, and we were staying in this motel in Ohio, and I had him put on gloves and sparring with me out in the parking lot. You know, he still talk about it bad to this day because at that point in time, I was just finished. I was living with him out here in Houston, and he always was threatening about kicking me out. He always threatened about kicking me out, but like I said, he's been there with me from the beginning, you know, and so I'm very thankful for him. You know, I think all boxers understand how important it is to have a support system. And I got one of the strongest support systems ever.
So obviously, you come from an athletic family, you know, world class athletes. You know, to play in the NFL, you have to be like an insane athlete.
Yeah. And be an NFL linebacker at that too.
I live in Fort Worth, and there was a kid that played at Texas, and then he got drafted he was undrafted, signed by the Saints, and he's been kicked around. His name is Little Jordan Humphrey, and they said he's not fast enough to play the NFL. You look at him like he ain't fast enough to play the NFL.
He's not.
He's not fast enough. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you got to be some type of athlete. So you got the athletic genes in your family. Obviously, you know you're a world class athlete too. What age did you?
I gotta cut you off for a second. You know, it's funny you say that because if you was to ask any of my family or anybody that knew me when I was a kid, I was not athletic at all. I didn't become an athlete until my senior year of high school, and I was always like the chubby kid growing up. I was a chubbier kid, and it wasn't until my junior year of high school and the light switched in my head. The DFG, everything it switched in my head where I really had this mindset. I was like, yo, I can really do anything that I really set my mind to, you know. And I was wrestling at the time, and that became my first love was wrestling, and it actually plays an important role in me boxing today. You know, a lot of my style and how I fight, a lot of stuff I do, I've learned from wrestling. You know, on just even stuff in the clinch, hand fighting, anything, dragging, manipulating people's body, controlling them. I learned all that really from wrestling. So it actually plays an important base on how I fight today. But I really drew attached to individual sports. I never liked in team sports people pointing fingers, blaming this person, blaming this person. We lost because of them. We lost because of them. You know, I love the individual aspect of combat sports when it's like, yo, this is all on me.
Yeah.
If I win, it's because I put the work in and I won. If I lost, it's because I failed to do something in my preparation, right? And so that's what drove me to really enjoy wrestling. And so when wrestling ended for me, I was like, yo, I gotta do something else. You know, I finally figured it out in my head mentally to really succeed in something. And so originally I was gonna do MMA, and I started boxing, and like a week into it, I'm like, oh no, this is it.
How old were you the first time you started boxing? Like, when did
This
you start?
I was 18 going on 19. This is my
So
senior
you
year.
real late starter. Okay.
Yeah, I started really late. You know, it's funny. I wanted to actually start when I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid, I was watching George Lopez, and I remember they had this episode. They took Max to the boxing gym, and it was with Layla Ali, and then you see, I'm watching him box and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks so cool, right? And so my mom had actually took me to a boxing gym in my hometown in Killeen, and I don't remember what happened, but I didn't end up signing up. I don't know why, but like looking back on it, I'm thankful that I didn't because I didn't have the mindset at the time. Like I'd have probably got hit too hard and like, forget this. I don't like this, you know. And I probably would have quit. Honestly, that was the mindset I had when I was a kid. And so, looking back, I'm thankful I didn't start at that age because I
So
probably wouldn't have stuck with it.
you're 27 now. So you've been boxing only for less than 10 years.
Yeah. I started 2015.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you've got okay. So obviously your amateur career. How does it start off? Are you really good right away, or do you lose a bunch of fights to start with, or how does your amateur career start?
You had to also understand the world that I was living at the time. I grew up in a very small town in Killeen, right? And so at this point in time,
Military family?
yeah, military. Yeah, my dad was in the military. So at this point in time, I'm in a small town, and so I thought I was good early. I
Yeah.
was like one of the best ones in my city. Like I'm talking about a couple months in, you know. But understand, I'm from a small town. Like the level of talent there is not
Yeah.
high. So I didn't really know the world like that, you know. Didn't really know the world, but my whole goal was I said I need to be on the fast track. Like, I gotta get fight as much as possible. And so my coach at that point in time, we were going doing these local shows like every weekend. We're traveling either to Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, all the major cities trying to get matched up for shows. And I was on a win streak. I was like on my first like 12 fights. Then
Okay.
I lost my first fight to a guy named Christian Montano. He was really talented. And then yeah, I kept going on the road from that point on. And so around that time I moved out to Houston because I was like, I need more exposure. I need to be around more talented individuals. You know, I had to get out of my home city if I really felt like I was going to make it. You know, and so that's what I did. 2016, I moved to Houston, and then I started training out here, and then sure enough, I went to move to go to school out here. I went to Prairie View A&M, and I was doing my getting my nursing degree, and so uh, shoot, I kind of had to juggle really between the two, between nursing and boxing, which was probably one of the most difficult things I had to do.
Yeah.
But everything surprisingly was working out. You know, I went 2018. I won national Golden Gloves, and that was while I was still in school. That was one of the craziest things ever, and it was at a weight class that I didn't fight at. I was fighting at 178, and I went and fought at 201, and I ended up winning it. And I was like, oh shoot, like I was so ecstatic. And then after I won that, I had 2 more semesters of school left, which was the hardest semesters in the program, and the workload was extremely high. So I kind of took about a year off from competing, and
Oh wow. Okay.
for those 2 semesters, I was still training and stuff, but I didn't have the flexibility to really go out and compete. There's nobody I can fight locally, and for me to go to these big tournaments to actually fight uh, top people, I had to be out of school for a week, and I couldn't do it. And I missed a lot of opportunities doing this. I missed a big opportunity going to nationals that year.
Yeah, I thought you
That
were gonna say the other one. I thought you were gonna say you took a year off from school. Like, you took a year off from
no,
boxing. Yeah,
I
yeah,
took,
yeah.
no, I had to take a year off from boxing, and so school was my priority at the time. I had to finish school. You know, I had to really secure my future. You know, With a sport like this, something that's physical, you never know what can happen in your body. So I had to take care of, my future beforehand. So once I did that, I graduated May 2019. Once I did that, I put everything on nursing behind me, and I went full throttle in my boxing career. And so then that was everything worked out perfectly. The trials was 2019 in December, and so I went qualified for that. I was the 8th seed. The only 8 people making to the
Yeah.
tournament was the last seed, and I ended
So
up
who else was in the bracket? What other names were in the bracket? And
down
this is
the
at 172 or
no, this is still at 201.
this is at 201.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's still 201. So going down the list, it was Adrian Tillman was number 1 seed. He was a W cap guy. Then number 2, I think, was Simone Kearney. He was a really talented individual. Came out of Beaumont. Then I can't remember down the list, but it was Najee Lopez was in there. Brandon Moore was in there. Then we had Devin Young was in there. I think he's pro now. And then Joshua Edwards, he was in there. Joshua Edwards, he's on Team USA now as a super heavyweight. And then Jamar Talley. Jamar Talley's on the team.
There's a lot of names. Yeah, there's a lot of big names you had to go through to get through that. So you finally get through. Who do you fight in the finals? Do you remember?
I fought Jamar Talley. So first person I fought was Adrian Tillman. He was the number 1 seed. I beat him. Then I fought Najee Lopez. Me and Najee, we were really cool to this day. Extremely talented. But we had kind of like a little rivalry at the time. We fought. That was our 3rd time fighting each other. It's always been wars between me and him. And so I edged that one out. I got the win on that one. Then I fought Jamar Talley in my 3rd fight. I beat him, and then it was a double elimination tournament. And so,
I beat him again. Yeah.
So he won his next match, and so I had to face him again in the finals. And then unfortunately I lost that one, and then so we had to fight again, and the day after that, and so then I won that one to win the whole tournament.
Okay, so you had to make it interesting, right? You couldn't beat him 2-0. You had to let it, yeah.
Look, trust me, I don't want to make it. I don't want to win that one. I'll tell you that for sure. Okay, honestly, besides the school, that was one of the hardest things I had to do was bounce back from that mentally.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, right? So you got to fight him the next day, right? It's the next day you got to fight him, right?
Yeah, the next day. And
so what's that like? Like, how does that night? Is that a sleepless night? What's that night like? This guy just beat me. I know I can beat him. I've already beaten him, but like he just beat me 24 hours ago.
So the hard thing about it, man, was this was in Lake Charles. It's like 2 hours from Houston. My entire family had so many people there. It was a big event. This was the finals, the Olympic Trials finals, and this was on NBC. They had all the commentators. It was a big deal, and it would have capped off the perfect week, to just sweep the entire tournament. And bro, it was so crazy having to deal with that because I was so ready I thought I was supposed to win. It would have made the moment so much more special. And I really did feel like I won, but I didn't get the decision. And so I was going through a lot of emotions at the time, though, that I had to deal with, right? Like through this entire tournament and really through the whole process when I came back 2019 boxing, I had a lot of weird decisions. Like in my mind, I'm clearly dominating these fights, and then I hear the decision that said, and winner by 4-1. So 4 judges said I won, 1 judge said he won, or another one I felt like I won clearly. It'd be a split decision, 3-2. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, and guys who aren't familiar with the amateur scene, you get weird scoring in the pros. In the amateurs, you get some scoring. It's just what fight were you watching?
It was beyond me. And so that literally happened through every qualifier I was at, up until the trials, even at the trials, where I was like, dude, what? And so I felt like I won this fight, and they gave Jamar a unanimous decision 5-0. And I was like, dude, what? And so what made it hard, I was like, I remember thinking, I was like, damn, what's wrong with me? I felt like something was wrong with me. I was like, is there something they don't like about me, or is there something I'm doing wrong? And I was dealing with some weird emotion at the time about that. Like I couldn't figure it out. And so yeah, it was a sleepless night. I'll tell you that. I was up overthinking, over analyzing everything, and ultimately, like I remember I having to just snap back, and I had to just snap out of it because I was
So
like, we ain't got no time. I gotta fight him again tomorrow. We ain't got no time to be down and emotional about something that's out of our control.
So, um, obviously you win that. You got a ton of international experience. There's Spain, France, Bulgaria.
Mm.
How is that coming up? And then how, getting to see all those different styles, traveling the world, seeing the world. What was it like being able to do that? Something that's usually awarded to just like the rich and famous. Like you got to do,
Right.
you got to do as a boxer. What was that like, and how much did you learn in that international experience?
I really enjoyed my entire experience. I would say it had its pros and its cons. Like obviously, when I got on the team is when the pandemic hit, and so the experience was a lot different than what I've heard stories about,
Yeah,
right? From other people that I knew and
that's true.
how it was being on the team. So it was a lot
Yeah,
different.
because you qualified late, like December of 2019,
Yeah.
and then
And
3 months later, yeah,
so it was a lot different on how things were structured and how it was. I don't really feel like it was for the best. It was the best environment to compete in. So what I mean by that is we had to follow all these protocols and all these rules to keep us safe, from COVID and the pandemic at the time. So now, mind you, it really felt like we were kind of like locked up in our rooms. Like we couldn't really hang out with any of our other teammates. Couldn't be in each other's rooms like that. We were kind of very secluded. And
yeah,
the mind is just a crazy thing when you allow it time to just sit. If you just sit in a room all day, your mind is self destructive.
got that right, yeah.
Yeah, and you get to overanalyze and overthinking everything, every little thing. So I'm always big on healthy distractions. And so and then how the training was functioning, we had to work around all these rules. And Team USA, I'm not gonna lie, they did a really good job on really trying to, accommodate with everything. But it was just difficult times. So I feel like I feel like everybody on the team at that time, we didn't get to see the best version of everybody, you know. But ultimately, nonetheless, like it was a great experience. Like I got really deep bonds with the people on the team. Um,
And that was a
and,
stacked team too. That was that was one of the best teams that USA Boxing has put out
yeah,
in probably decades, like a
yeah,
real long time.
yeah. I got a lot of medals this year, so it was a blessing, man. Like honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world. The relations I got with my former teammates and stuff, and a lot of things that I learned along the way. I learned a lot of stuff about myself and how I fight. And um, get to learn from different people, pick up little things that they do, and add it to my game. So it really made a world of a difference on my development as a fighter.
So then 2021, December of 2021 is your first professional fight, right? In
Yep,
Mexico?
yep, yep.
All right. Now it's time to turn pro. Talk to me through that transition. Well, you're using 10-ounce gloves because you're a big guy, right?
All
The
right.
10-ounce gloves, no headgear, no shirt. What's that like the first time as a professional?
I remember the first time as a pro when I put these gloves on. Right. I remember, and I always do this for every fight. I kind of hit myself a little bit. I hit my just a little bit like that with the gloves on. And I
Yeah.
remember right before I walked out, I was doing that, and it was a quick reminder. I was like, "Oh, we ain't taking no punches today. I was like, we ain't
Yeah.
taking nothing." I was like, "That joint kind of hurt a little bit. And so I made my mission. Really, my last 6 fights, I haven't really taken any hits like that. Um, try to take extreme pride in that. I'm not trying to take no damage. Um, it's really for my mom. My mom says I got a handsome face, and she would like it to stay that way. So, um, but really the main difference I realized through the amateurs and the pros really is just the pace of it. Right, the pace of it is a lot different. Everything's a little more calculated. Um, Amateurs was just kind of just rapid pace, which didn't really fit my style and how I fought. And so I think the pros is a much better. I've always done better in the long game. I always adapt very well um, to what I got in front of me. I'm good at picking up on patterns, picking up on rhythm, um, and then trying to know to make sure I change minds as well. So I learned a lot in these fights, and I'm still learning every little thing about just even the process, the preparation, about what I'm eating right before the fight. You know, that was a problem I had. I'm a big foodie, and I remember my third fight after weigh-ins, and weigh-ins were late too at this fight. The weigh-ins, we didn't weigh in till like 6:30, 7 p.m. or something like that. And I went crazy, bro. I had so much food, and the next day I just felt so bloated. I felt so heavy. And so I had to remind myself that I can't do that until after the fight, right? I
After the
still got to
fight,
make
yeah.
sure I take care of myself. And that's something that I already really knew. I just, I'm glad I got to experience it really early then, but there's a lot that I'm still learning about the process, right? And so uh, it's still a journey, but the whole thing is just keep learning, keep evolving, make sure that I'm doing everything possibly right leading up to every fight.
So your second fight, you fight a guy, Nosa Divine, really good fighter. I think he's from the Austin area. Really good fighter, 5-1. You fight him on the Spence Ugas unification fight, the undercard at Cowboy Stadium. That's your second pro fight. What's that like? I know it's real early. I was there. It's real early in the card, but still, it's Jerry World. It's Spence Ugas. What's that? I mean, you fought on big stages,
Yeah.
But what's that like being on that card?
I fought on big stages, but that's a different type of big stage. I'm glad you were there, though. It wasn't necessarily too much people there. They had me fighting literally extremely early.
I think it was the second, and it was one of these PBC cards, pay-per-view cards. There's like 13 fights on the card.
They had a lot of fights on that card, yeah. And that was crazy because I was there. I got to the venue maybe like 2, and the main event didn't end till like midnight something. I was there all day. But like I said, that experience was amazing. Like something I remember telling myself before that fight was to never let a moment be too big for me, right? Which can happen a lot of times. You're walking out and you walk out into this humongous stadium. Like, it was huge, and sometimes that can be a little overwhelming for people, So I always remember reminding myself before that fight, like, don't let a single moment be too big for you. You're ready for any moment that you walk in, and you're ready to showcase and dominate everything that you work towards, right? So that was kind of the mental thing that I was preparing myself for, right? And I did that extremely well. Like, it was a really good performance on my end. I ended up stopped him after the third round, and got him out of there. And so overall, it was a great experience, and extremely happy to be able to do that. I grew up not too far from Dallas, so I did have a lot of my family and people that were able to make it.
Now you fought, you fought on that because you fought locally in Galveston back, I think it was June, right? Yeah. What's better, the big, huge card or the local card in front of everyone, your friends, your family, everyone, what's better?
You know what? I'll tell you the difference between those two. Like, so that one I was actually main event on the Galveston card. The Spence Ugas, I was the very first fight. It's kind of two different spectrums.
Yeah.
Fighting first in this one, or this one I was fighting last, right? I think the experience would have been a lot different, in the Spence Ugas if I was fighting later on the card and the arena was more packed than what it was when I fought, right? Because it almost still felt like an empty arena. But so to comparing those two specific situations, then the hometown one for sure.
For sure.
Easily.
You fought on some other big cards. You fought at AT&T Center where the Spurs play. You fought other Golden Boy cards. Obviously, you have a functioning relationship with Golden Boy. You're fighting again on a Golden Boy card. How's that going?
Everything's going good. I love the Golden Boy shows, and I'll tell you this. So if I had to rank all of them, the one at AT&T Center in San Antonio was, I think, my best, my favorite experience fighting on a pro card. That was the first time I really felt genuine love from fans, and people that I didn't know. Right, some of the other cards, it was like a lot of people that I knew. But this is the first time I really felt love from strangers, people I didn't know.
San Antonio is a great fight city too. They're knowledgeable. They're really passionate about their fans. Right, it's a really good fight city.
I took like a million pictures, and I loved it, man. That was the first time I really felt love like that, And so, shout out to Golden Boy, putting on a good card, and I'm, like I said, extremely thankful for what they've done for me. Really upstarted my career. And I just say I'm extremely excited to be on another show. I know California. It's funny. I've been joking about this. Fights in California, so Mexican Independence Day, and from
I think you're right. It's Mexican
so
Independence Day.
Mexican
Right,
Independence Day, and I'm fighting the Mexican, and I'm almost positive I'm probably gonna get booed. I already know it.
You're 6-0, 6 knockouts. You feel like you gotta get 7-0, 7 knockouts. Don't let this thing go to the cards. Get him out.
I tell you, I mean, like anybody would say, you don't want it to go to the cards, right? I told you my experience with amateur. Anytime I went to decision, I was like, I don't know how they're going to score this, So obviously, I don't ever want it to go to decision, but my goal is always to win. And so some guys are tough. Some guys you just can't knock out. So as far as that goes, I'll tell you, it's my biggest pet peeve is I hate when I heard this so much in my whole career. It was, if I say I did get a bad decision or something, or somebody was like, man, well, you should have just knocked him out. Okay. Thanks for the advice, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not that easy. Yeah.
They make it sound like the easiest thing to do. Like, yeah, you should have just knocked him out. Well, thanks for that. Like, I was trying, but rest assured I was trying, okay? Rest assured I was trying, but some guys are really sturdy and durable, and they're not, you can't just knock everybody out, but obviously, yes, I would like to. But I'm not gonna put any pressure on myself to do that though, because you put pressure like that on yourself, then you kind of try to force it, and I realize you can't force anything in this sport. Like, it just happens. You put in the work and you do what you're supposed to do, it'll come. So
when you said that, like we were trying. There was a reminded me of his famous interview once when the Clippers were playing the Warriors, and this is like when the Warriors had Kevin Durant, and it was Lou Williams and Pat Beverly, and they asked about Kevin Durant scoring 42 points and why they didn't adjust. He's like, Lou Williams like, we tried.
Yeah,
have you ever played basketball? He's not good.
Yeah, rest assured we did our best. Okay, man, that is a big pet peeve of mine. Like I wasn't out there trying.
So you're 27, right? So you're already, growing into your man strength. You're going to be moved quickly. You look through your resume. It's not typical 6 tuna cans, right? You fought pretty decent fighters at this stage. How quickly do you want to be moved along? And realistically, when do you think you could be fighting your elite top 10, top 15, either super middleweights or light heavyweights?
I think honestly, kind of the goal would be by like the end of next year. To kind of be in a position to do that, still getting experience. This is my first 8-rounder, and then so hopefully we'll be up to 10 rounds soon. But hopefully goal be end of next year. We can start fighting really, really bigger names.
Realistically, right? Like I know you want to knock everyone out, but realistically, you're not, right? So you're not gonna, no one has 100% knockout ratio for their whole career.
Well,
so realistically,
I guess better be if.
Okay, is it?
I guess
you're gonna have to go deep in the fights. I mean, is there a part of you that says, "Yeah, I want to get the knockouts," but another part of me that says, "I got to go these rounds for self improvement. I got to go 6, 8. I got to go deep in the fights because eventually, I'm going to be in a 12-round war."
It's going to happen, So, and that's the whole part of the journey is really getting to that point. It is going to happen, but I'll tell you for sure, my style is I'm not a Deontay Wilder puncher. I know that about myself. I'm not, but. How I'm going to stop people really comes down to the wear and tear. Like I'm really good at breaking people down, And so, like I said, those longer fights I think are more to my advantage than anything. So, like I said, I prepare for those 12-round fights already, But now it's just about actually getting the in-ring experience of actually doing it, rather than just in sparring. So yeah, I do need the rounds, but again, I will tell you. I'd much rather get somebody out of there. And honestly, the fans would much rather that too. I'm trying to be a fan pleaser. Like I think I got a style that's pleasing to the fans because I always want to be extremely relentless the entire time that I fight. And so, yeah, I would definitely. It's kind of hard to answer the question because it's like I'm trying to say I want to get the knockout, but I'm also letting you know that if the knockout doesn't come, I'm not tripping.
So far, you've got nothing but knockouts. We said, eventually you want to get down to 68. Let me ask you that first. 68 is a pretty big 168-pound fight coming up. Canelo and Jamel Charles, another Houstonian.
Right.
Who do you got in that fight?
I got Canelo. We'll just get off the fence.
All right.
I'm not gonna beat around the bush and put a whole bunch of disclaimers. I just say if I was a betting man, which I'm not, if I was a betting man, I'd have put money on somebody. I would choose Canelo.
It's hard to pick someone coming up 2 weight classes to beat one of the pound for pound. It's just it's if he does it, hats off, tip your hat to him. He's the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, in my opinion. If he beats Canelo,
unless we're talking about like Terrence Crawford or somebody, then yeah. I think Terrence Crawford can probably beat Canelo though.
That's a lot of weight, man. Crawford started at 135.
You had to also say though, like really Canelo's not that. Canelo's now gotten a lot more stockier, but Canelo himself really isn't still that big, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you think Jamel's probably bigger than him?
Probably. And Jamal definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. So Canelo's not like the biggest 168, you know.
And he's short, and he's not. He doesn't have a really long reach or anything. So he's looks like a 154-pounder who blew up a little bit.
I always say anything about like size. Like size only matters when the skill level is the same.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's skill level, if they're just better, then the size doesn't matter. Shakur could probably beat so many people at 147, probably. And he fights at 135.
Yeah.
You know, because Shakur's that talented like that, you know. But until like the skill level.
Don't tell that to Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero just said that Shakur Stevenson is about the worst fighter in the world.
Oh, you know what?
Did you hear this interview with Rolly?
You know, Rolly just be talking, man.
it's entertaining though. So again, you're back September 16th, Los Angeles. You're on the Gesta Zepeda card. You said you know who your opponent is. What can we expect from you, and what predictions do you want to give before the fight?
I don't feel like to give too many predictions, but I do think I will actually get the stoppage this fight. That is the plan. But I'll tell you again, I always say my style, which you always expect, is really just being relentless the entire time. And so I think I got a style that pleases a lot of fans. And so I think it's the exciting fight, and I think we'll get the guy out of there.
So again, September 16th, you're back. Assuming everything goes well and you do get the win, when do you want to be back? And is there anyone at either 68 or 75 that you kind of want to fight next?
I'll tell you. So hopefully, plan is I can fight again following month.
So you want to keep up every month, every other month?
If I fight again in October, that'd be fantastic. As far as calling people out, I think I told you earlier, I'm not necessarily in a position really to call anybody out. Don't have any leverage for that yet. I'm not in a position to say, I need to fight this person. Not in a position to do that, but I think by the time next year, I should be in a position to do that. And best believe I'll be the type of guy to call people out.
And you're on a fast track. They've moved you quickly. Like, again, 6-0. You don't see a lot of guys with a resume that you've had just 6 fights in. Right. So obviously you're being moved quickly. Hopefully next time we do this, we talk about you fighting for a world title. Darius, appreciate your time. Tell them where they can find you on social media.
It's just my name on Instagram at Darius Fulghum, Darius Fulghum.
All right. Thank you for your time. God bless, champion. Best of luck on September 16th.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.